Age of Ultron is okay. That's the title. Because I feel like this movie is good in many ways, but it ultimately lacks something great. I think the main reason for all of this is the high expectations from fans, the structure, and the villain being pretty lame compared to his comic book counterpart. I'm not going to lie, this was my first introduction to the MCU. Yes, I watched a lot of movies growing up, but I never watched anything Marvel except for Spider-Man.
How? Hold on, bro. How?
Well, after I watched this and realized there was an entire connected universe, I was hooked.
It's kind of cut out of the Stark cloth. It's not just this kind of mindless robot. It has personality.
Don't compare me with Stark.
You're gonna break your old man's heart.
Welcome to the watch list. Currently, I'm looking into the MCU as we slowly draw closer to the release of Avengers Doomsday. Age of Ultron was a very ambitious movie. It introduced a hell of a lot to the universe, which I'll get into later, and delves into the personal lives of each core Avenger. I personally find this movie a joy to watch. There's a fair amount of action and tension, as Ultron, voiced by James Spader, is still quite an antagonizing villain.
The only thing living in this world will be metal.
Even though he doesn't live up to his full potential, the world building is what sold me on this. It introduces so much more lore to the universe. You can tell Joss Whedon wanted to create something amazing, and that was also this film's downfall. Yep, Whedon returned to direct and produce this movie after the massive success of Avengers 2012. Say what you will about him, but he's produced a lot of good stuff, with Firefly, Serenity, Buffy, and Angel being his most prominent. I remember reading that he found working on Age of Ultron a difficulty, especially when it came to the editing. His first cut of the movie was actually 195 minutes long, meaning some scenes had to be cut, scenes that Whedon wanted to keep, leading to a lot of disagreements between him and the Marvel execs. So yeah, it doesn't sound like he had the best of times behind the scenes. Age of Ultron wasn't based on any singular comic, but multiple subplots from different Avengers arcs, such as Ultron's first appearance in Avengers issue 54 and 55, and Ultron's comic event with the exact same title, Age of Ultron. Which is funny because in this movie, it isn't really an Age of Ultron, more like a couple of weeks of Ultron. The way Age of Ultron is structured is a bit messy. There's a lot going on. These are just a few main beats from the movie's plot. The Maximoff twins, Vision's creation, Ultron and his eventual meteor plan, the Avengers and their worst fears, Natasha and Bruce's relationship, and that's not even all of it. It's surprising to me that they even managed to fit all this in, and it still be adequately paced, and cohesive enough for us to understand. The final runtime of the movie is 141 minutes, and I've noticed on my many rewatches that it feels so much longer than this, partially because of how it's structured. It's built like an episodic series, with 6 different acts similar to Whedon's early work. See, I like the sound of this structure. It's unique and it feels very comic book inspired, but it does drag. And for a movie, you want a continuous story, not something that stops and starts and stops and starts. If I were to sit here and talk about each character in this movie, I'd be here for a while. So I'm just going to quickly skim over each Avenger in this section. In my research for this movie, I've seen a lot of comments about how this film doesn't develop the characters in any way. But I think this film does a good job in letting us stop for a second and get to know these characters on a deeper level. The use of Wanda Maximoff's powers here let us see their darkest memories and fears. Tony's being failing to do enough and losing the people he loves due to his actions, which correlates with his mishap at creating Ultron, as the reason Ultron was built in the first place is because Tony wanted a suit of armor around the world.
I see a suit of armor around the world.
Cap's was the fact that he's nothing without war. All he believes is he's a weapon, and that he can't really live a normal life. He sums this up perfectly at the end of the movie.
Guy who wanted all that went in the ice 75 years ago.
Thor's seems like he's meeting everyone in Valhalla, and he's the reason they're there, which forces him to go off onto his own adventures, leading to Ragnarok and Infinity War.
The Mind Stone is the 4th of the Infinity Stones to show up in the last few years. It's not a coincidence.
For Natasha, it was her time in the Red Room, and the torture she faced. Other than that, we don't really get much development of her character, except for maybe the relationship with Bruce.
Hey, big guy. Sun's getting real low.
So with Banner, we don't actually see what he sees, but my guess is the Hulk just going berserk and killing everyone. This obviously leads to the showdown between Hulk and Tony in his Hulkbuster suit, which is one of my all-time favorite action scenes in the MCU.
Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep.
I'll get more into that soon. Lastly, Hawkeye manages to avoid getting brainwashed again, but we do get some insight into his life outside of the Avengers, as we meet his wife and children at his farmhouse. But that shows us that he sacrifices this life every time he goes out on a mission, finally adding some definition to a character that's been with us for a little while by this point. Ultron is a toughie. He's really menacing, mostly due to the incredible voice acting from James Spader,
You rise, only to fall.
but also because of his motives. He wants peace, but to do that, humanity has to be wiped from the earth. Like I said earlier, he isn't exactly like his comic book character here, as he has a lot more emotion, but that could be due to him being created by Tony and Bruce instead of Hank Pym as it is in the comic. He's not a bad villain though. Ultron is up there for me. However, to have him as just a one-off villain in a singular Avengers movie is kind of a waste. Who knows, he could be out there somewhere waiting to be the ultimate villain of a later MCU saga. With Ultron constantly evolving himself, he creates a vessel made out of vibranium that he calls his vision,
My vision. They really did take everything from me.
which the Avengers later steal and Thor then helps Tony download Jarvis into, not before a quick foreboding of civil war. Our introduction to Vision is quite creative.
Maybe I am a monster.
It really works here, and I don't think there's any other way of incorporating him into the universe than this, although this movie is already bloated enough, so to add this can feel a bit forced, but I like it. So with Vision being an additional character, we also get the Maximoff twins.
Didn't see that coming?
Again, I like their inclusion. Their connection to Sokovia and their feud with Stark being the main reason they join Ultron until they see how insane he actually is. Wanda being one of the most important characters to enter the MCU, even having her own show after Vision's death in Infinity War. And then totally flipping, becoming the main villain of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, with her whereabouts still unknown. It's a different story with Pietro. He obviously dies in this movie, but I think we needed this, or else it would have felt as though there were no stakes at all. Aaron Taylor-Johnson is great as Quicksilver. He has great chemistry with Hawkeye, and the fact that he dies saving Clint and the kid makes his death just as impactful. The set pieces and visuals are bigger and better this time around. I just realized I haven't even mentioned the opening sequence yet. It's great, right? How it's set in the snowy mountains and the fact that we just get dropped into this battle. That group shot we get is incredible. Another noteworthy sequence is the Hulkbuster scene, as it's one of the most complex sequences to animate, taking months of work to complete. The Hulkbuster itself looks incredible. The way it assembles is very smart, as it comes down from a satellite in space. Each part comes to him separately, similar to what they did in Iron Man 3. It builds up the tension, and when he finally equips it all, it's just perfection. Most of the character designs are looking good. We get a new shield magnet thing with Cap, and his suit retains the same realism from the Winter Soldier. Iron Man's suit looks extra fresh and slimmer this time around. Like I mentioned in my review for Thor: The Dark World, Thor keeps the same costume, but they do get rid of that scaly arm armor. Finally, I just want to talk about Ultron. He genuinely looks fantastic. I love the detailing and the way he evolves himself, so you can clearly see the advancements he's made to himself. Although, if I were to make any kind of adjustment, it would be his face. It's very human-like. If they used a design similar to the Ultron in Marvel Rivals, something like this, then they'd have been cooking. Quick trivia time. Kevin Feige confirmed that Spader was the only actor Marvel spoke with for the role of Ultron. Spader also used motion capture. The farm scenes were kept so secret during filming that they weren't included in the script. Joss Whedon originally planned to include both Spider-Man and Captain Marvel in the film, but neither could be included due to various rights issues at the time. The Hulkbuster scene was actually the first sequence that was completed for the film, as it required the most time for visual effects work. Linda Cardellini's role as Laura Barton, Hawkeye's wife, was kept completely secret until the film's release. Her name wasn't even included in any of the promotional materials. To the rating, I've switched it around a bit from last time. I'd place this film in the B tier. It does a lot right, and expands the lore of the universe, creating plot points for Marvel to circle back round to. Although Age of Ultron doesn't quite capture the magic of Avengers 2012, its structure, along with its complex character additions, makes it difficult for the average moviegoer to understand. I do have a soft spot for this film, but I can also see where people come from when they say it's their least favourite movie within the MCU. For me, it will always be remembered as a core reason for my love of the Marvel Universe.